It's safe to say that throughout most of their history, Ethiopia and Eritrea haven't had the best relationship, and this story begins with some good old-fashioned colonialism. Eritrea was initially controlled by the Italians after the European scramble for Africa, with the first Italians arriving in 1882. That was until the British took control in the Battle of Keren in 1941. Then, in the 1950s, Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia claimed the land of Eritrea, having previously written a letter to then US President Franklin D. Roosevelt regarding the issue. Both the British and the Americans were happy to give most of Eritrea to Ethiopia as a reward for their support during World War II, and despite resistance by Eritrean parties that wanted independence, the territory was federated with Ethiopia in December of 1950. The Eritrean Liberation Movement was founded in 1958, from which the Eritrean Liberation Front arose and began a war for independence in 1961. This war for independence lasted 30 years, spanning several Ethiopian governments. The Eritrean People's Liberation Front, basically version 2 of the Eritrean Liberation Front, defeated Ethiopian forces in Eritrea, and a referendum for independence was held in 1993, with an incredible 98.5% turnout rate and 99.83% vote in favour of independence. However, conflict between the two countries was far from over. Tension continued throughout the 90s, with frequent border disputes that resulted in the invasion of Ethiopia by Eritrea in 1998, which led to all-out war. Over the 2-year war period, estimates as high as 300,000 killed have been quoted, with both sides in dispute over the number of casualties. Ethiopia held all of the disputed territory by the end of the war, and had moved into Eritrea, although in 2002 it was established by the Eritrea-Ethiopia Boundary Commission that the disputed town of Badame belonged to Eritrea, to which Ethiopia agreed, then said, actually no, Badame belongs to us, and tensions between the two nations reignited. Although fighting had largely stopped, peace had not been truly made, with the period between 2002 and the present marred by recurring conflict, such as in 2010 when soldiers from both sides began fighting in the border town of Zalambesa after Eritrea claimed Ethiopian troops had crossed the border, and in 2016 conflict broke out in another border town, Sorona, the fighting coming to be known as the Battle of Sorona, with Eritrea claiming 200 Ethiopians had been killed, and Ethiopia saying there were more Eritrean casualties than Ethiopian casualties. However, in 2018, things took a positive turn. Ethiopia elected Abiy Ahmed to be Prime Minister, and unlike his predecessors, he stated his ambition to end the conflict with Eritrea. In June 2018, the Ethiopian government had agreed to hand over the disputed border town of Badame. On the 9th of July, the country's two leaders signed a joint declaration of peace and friendship, ending over half a century of tension and re-establishing diplomatic relations, with road and aviation links reopening. Eritrea also allowed landlocked Ethiopia to use some of its ports. The event was highly praised in the international community, in a landmark achievement for not just the two countries involved, but the whole of Africa, and the peace paves the way for a strong, beneficial relationship for the two former enemies.